Hi, I'm Leanne Ely. I'm a nutritionist, a New York Times best-selling author, and some people even say I'm a life coach. I started the Daily Dish Show to share my story, my truth, and my journey to vibrancy, and to inspire others to do the same. Because it's all about grit, perseverance, and finding a way despite the odds. It's about embracing the whole woman, not just the parts that are easy to love, and feeding her heart, mind, body, and soul. But I found that this isn't just my story, it's your story too. It's go time. This is the Daily Dish. And I've talked about Groundhog Day a number of times in that we are all susceptible to this. Bruce Lipton wrote this fabulous book called The Biology of Belief. And in that book, he talks about how 95% of our living is done in our unconscious brain. And that is, and you understand what that is if you've ever gotten into a car, driven somewhere and just went, oh shoot, that's kind of scary. How did I even get here? We've all done it. But can you imagine living 95% of your life like that, where you just all of a sudden are looking around and you're going, oh my gosh, it's 2021. I mean, like I walked through 2020 like a zombie. Well, a lot of us did. It was a weird, a weird year last year. Most of it spent, dealing with a pandemic, of course. But the point is that when we're living our lives like this, when we're living our lives where it's just like day in, day out, doing the same thing without much thought to anything, we find ourselves kind of in a numb situation where we're really not happy in our lives. We're not hating our lives either, or some of us are, or we're just like, how is this just the same thing day in and day out? Well, I'm going to tell you right now, what we call it is there's an Oregon Trail, and if you've ever heard of the Oregon Trail, it was started in like 1860, and it went from Minnesota, I believe, all the way to Oregon, and 100, it started with the trappers and all those guys who were, trading furs and what have you. But then all of a sudden settlers started coming west. And what they did was they followed the Oregon Trail. Easy to find because of the ruts in the road. And 160 years later, as a matter of fact, Marla was telling me that she's actually seen part of the Oregon Trail where you can still see those ruts in the trail. Can you imagine seeing that after all those years, after rain and weather and everything else, those ruts are still there? That's our brain. Our brains are like that. Our brains are like that in that we create these ruts in our brains. They're neurosynaptic connections, but it's a rut nonetheless. And it's what we always fall into. It's what we've always done. It is the comfortable thing to do. And oftentimes we don't even think about what it is. But when we get into this Oregon Trail of like, I always get up, I always do this, and I always do that, and my life sucks, or whatever it is that you're doing, we have to start thinking in disruptive terms. We have to bring ourselves back to present. This is why I was talking to you about, our mindful mugs. Because mindlessness is behind this whole idea of the Oregon Trail and behind this whole idea of living life on repeat without anything ever changing. And in the movie Groundhog Day, if you've seen that, it wasn't until the hero Bill Murray connected the dots on what true connection was. And instead of trying to, he did everything, you have to watch the movie to go through it, but he was always trying to outsmart the system and never really fully connected with himself and connected with the woman he found out that he loved later. Now, of course, it's movie stuff or whatever, but it's true in that going past all of this garbage and going to the place of genuine connection is what gets us out of that. When we are trying to flip new habits, for example, get into new habits and flip out the old ones and the stuff that no longer serves us, it is the same kind of a thing. In order to do that, we have to connect with what it is that we truly want. And I'm here to tell you right now that I believe the biggest block is what's coming out of our mouth and what's coming out of our lives are incongruent. In other words, we're talking about things, it would be like an Olympic boxer or whatever talking about how he's getting his game on, and really what he's doing is sitting at home on his can, eating chips and watching Netflix. He's not doing anything. This idea of the Olympics is just a dream and not something that he's really doing. He's out of congruency with what it is that he's doing. And we've got to be that way. We've got to be in congruency. And these are the things, I've got 5 things really that are going to help you get out of this Groundhog Day existence and into a life that's meaningful, mindful, and purposeful. Because we can't find any of these things if we just keep doing the same thing over and over again. That's how we destroy our lives, actually. And if we want to create new Oregon trails in our brains, if we want to create new neurosynaptic connections in our brain, then we have to do things, and we have to be aware of all of this. And our awareness, that awareness is the light that we need on that highway so that we can see where it is that we're going. Awareness takes us to a different level of living completely. So the first thing we need to do is we need to look at congruency, because when our thoughts and our habits and what we're doing and what's showing up in our lives are out of balance, then we're out of balance and we never quite feel like we're living our best lives, because we're not. We're completely incongruent. Everything's out of balance and everything is out of whack. So what happens when we put things in balance? This is the part where this is what I would call the tipping point, where it's a little difficult. But if we can say, I am a fitness buff, for example, this is one of the things that I'm doing with myself to create a much more consistent, there it is again, consistent habit of being fit, because fitness is my goal. But then to get this, I've got to practice it, right? So I am using I am statements. That's really number 2. But, stay with me for a minute. But when we do this, what happens is when we push ourselves to this little place of just saying, okay, here's where the incongruency lies. Here's what I need to do instead. And use an I am statement, for example, and set the intention as well. That's number 2. But when you do this, you will create motivation to do it again. Motivation to do it again. And, motivation comes from action. It doesn't show up on your doorstep. Motivation always comes from that. So if we can get if we can take our thought, flip the action, just do it anyway, then we're going to find ourselves in the place of feeling really good about that, which helps to put us in congruency, which puts us into being motivated to do it again, and which puts us in the place to understand that this creates momentum. It's physics. It can't help but create momentum. One domino down, there goes the next one, there goes the next one, and that equals, what I'm going to say, right? Magic. Because all of these things go together, but it starts with a thought. It starts with the thought. So if we understand that we've got to disrupt this Oregon Trail in our head, we've got to disrupt Groundhog Day, then we can get that done. Not only can we get it done, but we are going to start seeing quick results, and we'll start feeling different about ourselves. And one of the things that you can do to help prop that up as you're doing it, as you're getting to that tipping place, is to start with intention. Start with gratitude. Start with your journal. Start in the morning with the I am statements. I am a fitness buff. That's why I told you that's one of mine. I am fit, therefore I do this. I am strong, therefore I lift heavy things. I am statements declare who you are, and it's super powerful. When we use that, we have to understand there is some magic in that statement, and it's also intentional. Keeping your intentional statements intentional, but also keeping them in the positive and keeping them in the present tense is super powerful. I am, meaning that's what you do. That's who you are. You become that as you declare that. Make sense? Number 3, I believe that this is one of the things. This is like me pulling the rug right out from underneath you. You're gonna love this. Do something spontaneous. I was thinking about that. And I thought, what about doing something really fun and spontaneous for yourself or for your spouse or for your kids? Do something fun. If it's your children, make a tent. for your dining room table, and have everybody eat with candlelight or something underneath, or fake candlelight so you don't let the place on fire, but eat underneath the table instead of on top of the table. Do something disruptive and spontaneous. That's fun. Send yourself flowers, send your spouse flowers, do something creative and off the hook. Or spontaneous, like an illegal sprint, says Sarah. Yes, like an illegal sprint. Spontaneity, though, sparks different ideas, and it sparks newness, and it's a disruptor in a very good way. That's what we want, right? We want disruption. We don't want to keep this automatic pilot going. Like I said, choose the things you want for automatic pilot, and choose the intentional living that you want to be present with. That's why I was telling you about, like, it didn't even occur to me until I was like in my late 50s that maybe I should be present with my meals. Because I can't even tell you how many times I ate at the computer, ate in front of the TV, or whatever, when I was single and by myself. I'm not talking about with my kids or anything like that. But then I thought, I deserve that kind of attention too. I deserve to sit and be with my meal. I deserve it. One of the things that I did one time when I was just trying to get this lesson learned, and I was living by myself, is I lit a candle. I poured a glass of wine in a nice wine glass, not in, a mason jar, and I sat and had a nice dinner with a cloth napkin on my lap, putting my fork down and being very intentional about it. And it was a disruptor, and it made me pay attention to not eating like a Hoover vacuum, not eating like it's a speed contest of some sort, but instead being very present with our food. A lot of us need that lesson. So if that's you, then plan something like this, but be spontaneous. Bring spontaneity back into your life in a way that's intentional, and in a way that's there to pull the plug out from the groundhog machine. Yeah? And number 4 is to try new things. When we try new things, it's making our brain think of something new. If you've always done crossword puzzles, do some Sudoku. If you've always done Sudoku, do some crossword puzzles. Throw that in. Brush your teeth with your opposing hand. Try that. I've been trying that, and it just drives me crazy, because I'm right-handed, and Mark's left-handed, so I watch, and I'm just like, okay, just do like Mark, and I use my Sonicare toothbrush. It takes 2 minutes to brush your teeth, and so I'm sitting there with the Sonicare, and it just feels very awkward. But it's also disrupting things in my brain and helping me to be a disruptor. It's a really good idea. You can try that with playing ping pong. Ooh, I haven't done that, but I did slay Mark, by the way. We had our first ping pong match, and I beat him in the first 2 games. It's 2 out of 3. I beat him first game, second game. I just want to put that out there. So you can send me congratulations later. Try reading new books. Try a new language. You can go to duolingo.com, and it's free. You can learn a language. We're shut down right now, but why not plan a trip to France in September and surprise your spouse and speak French? Why not? Every single day you can teach yourself something a little bit new, a little bit different. If you are a crocheter, why don't you start needle pointing or knitting or something, and bring in a different activity. But the point is to be shifting things around so that your brain is saying, okay, this chick means business. She's on it. And when you're on it, you've got things going on. When you're on it, you're unplugging the groundhog machine, and you're becoming the person that you want to be. You can't do it if we just go numbly through life 95% of the time in our unconscious brain. That's the most primitive part of our brain, by the way. So can we make a deal then? No more Groundhog Day. We'll celebrate today. It's Groundhog Day. But you can Groundhog Day all you want when you clean the toilet, or when you're changing the sheets, or whatever it is, whatever task on hand that you have to do to get your house right or whatever. But let's make a deal that we'll be present and mindful with our meals, that we'll be present and mindful in our relationships, and present and mindful with our own personal growth and our own personal development. We have one life to live. One. This is the only body we're going to get. This is it. This is it. So if we can connect to those 2 things and we can decide that this bodysuit of ours is going to take us the full distance. We're going to feed it and nurture it and care for it the same way that we would our own children, the same way we do our car. I mean, we can take better care of our cars than we do our bodies, don't we? If we can make that kind of a thing and be that mindful, we are going to change everything. We're going to change everything, and it's going to be gradual. It's going to be graceful, and it's going to be something that you can attain simply because you made the decision that Groundhog Day happens one time a year. It's not a daily occurrence. What about that? Rebecca says, pinkies up, lovelies. I agree. Pinkies up. Let's get the quality of life that we want, and it all starts with making that decision that Groundhog Day is a once-a-year occurrence. Deal? I like that. Peace be with you. Appreciate you. Bye. Thank you for joining me today. You can find me on TikTok for daily tips to help support your most vibrant life. And remember, you are the author of your own story. Until next time.